Hmm. There we go. Yeah, okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Good evening. Yep. Good evening. 1, 2. Yes, we have contact. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Mm-hmm. 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 Yes. Mm-hmm. 6 minutes. Mm-hmm. 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 Good evening. My name is Dr. Darrell Hestelin. I'm excited that you're with us tonight. I want to talk about one of the things that is so common for many people in this country and around the world, actually, that the danger of osteoporosis and what it means and how we can deal with that. So I'm glad that you've joined us. I want to get going through this. I have a fair amount of information. I'm going to try to keep it simple enough. It gets to be real deep if you let it go there with all the hormones and everything, but I want to keep it at a level of just talking about the calcium and things that we can do to reduce your risk of osteoporosis. So when we look at how we go through life and aging, we want to look at, all of the quality that we can have, including slowing down bone loss, stopping the brain drain, fighting diabetes, those types of things. And those are under our control. For the most factors, we can really do a lot with that. And I just want to share a couple of concepts here. Diabetes is a terrible disease that steals your quality of life a little bit at a time. I've heard many people refer to this as it just steals a little bit. You can do a little less and a little less. Osteoporosis is another terrible condition that steals your quality of life one fracture at a time. I've seen people that, cough or sneeze hard and break a rib or a fracture of vertebra, sit down wrong, stumble, twist, number of different things, and they can have bone fractures because their bones have gotten so thin. And Alzheimer's is another terrible disease that steals your quality of life, basically one memory at a time. You can remember past things, but you can't remember what you just did or who was just there or what you're going to eat. And we see that. And the thing is that there's so much we can do with all of these to reduce our risk. So what I want to just take a little bit of mind time here, if you will. What are your wants, dreams, and desires? What would you like more of in your life? What would you like less of? And then what difference would that make? And those are going to be individual for each of us. And just think about, what do you think about mostly during the day? That's probably something you either want more of or less of. So look at that and just consider those. And as we go through here, would you agree that your health is your greatest asset? Controlling your health would be a critical factor in all of this. And so tonight we're going to be addressing those health issues. Epigenesis is a critical thing. When we talk about bone health, in this case what we want to talk about primarily tonight, this generally refers to the genetic expression as influenced on our cellular conditions. What are your genes controlling? What are they doing? How are they functioning? Now, genetic expression has changed how we understand it. I taught biology quite a few years ago, but when I did, we understood that one gene basically had one effect. That's what we thought. Now in late 1990s and early 2000s, we've completed the Human Genome Study. In that Human Genome Project, a report came out of Michigan State University that talked about a number of conditions, but one was that there was 100,000 protein building blocks, but yet only about 25,000 genes. Now, how does that work of one gene, one effect? Well, that means that genes have multiple effects, but what controls that? So there's basically three factors. One is cellular toxicity. What kind of toxins are influencing that cell? Is it chemicals? Is it heavy metals? Those are the most critical things that will be impacting us. MD Anderson in Texas said that 85 to 90% of all cancers are related to heavy metal and chemical toxicity. Cellular nutrition. Are your cells fully nourished? And this is something we're going to touch on tonight, that this is a key foundational point. Both of these are key foundational points for your health. And your emotions and attitudes. I just saw a study, another publication where they talked about the huge impact of your emotions. Mayo Clinic published a study in the past year that said that pessimists or negative thinking people died 19% of the time earlier than optimists. So there was a 19% increase in early death. So that has a huge impact, and they've documented now that this is what's going on. That's how our genes are expressed. So now your healthy cells, they require nutrients like fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. Vitamins and minerals are also important. And they have to have a free flow of oxygen and water in and out of the cell. Certain things that can trigger your immune system that impacts how this functions as well is gluten. Much more gluten today in today's wheat and than we used to have many times. And also there's more carbohydrates, and it's a different organism now than it used to be because they've pollinized it, crossbred it, hybridized it, and wheat does some strange things with that, and there's a lot of research been done with that. Drugs, there are more drugs, more people taking drugs. The average American has like 16 prescriptions filled a year. Somebody's taken mine because I haven't had a prescription in years. Synthetic and isolate vitamins. See, the synthetic and isolates, they may have the same chemical molecular structure, but they're missing a complex that comes with them in the food. There's a protein coat that comes with it as the messenger, the address label, if you will, to get into where it needs to go. And when you don't have that, the body's not just waiting for something to pass by that it can grab onto. It needs to have a cooperative reaction with that. Toxic metals, environmental chemicals, greater now today than ever. We have huge amounts of this in our system. I have for the last 50 years. We've been increasing our chemicals in agriculture and in our homes. I remember growing up that DuPont had a symbol or slogan, better living through chemistry. Well, today you could really argue against that. Yeah, there's been some great advances, but there's been also some great challenges. And then the inflammation triggers. We need to keep a balance between our omega-6 oils and omega-3. And today, too many of our omega-6, which are most of your plant oils, are refined and purified to the point that they actually are pro-inflammatory. Now, we need to have a balance between inflammation and anti-inflammatory, but we are way out of balance with the way our foods are put together. And the PUFAs, or the polyunsaturated fatty acids, are also another thing that feeds into that inflammation triggers. And then there's herbicides and pesticides. They're in all our foods. If you can buy organic, you can minimize the exposure to that. But so many of our foods, and because of GMOs, they can spray more of the chemicals on the plants because they're resistant to it, but more of that residue comes into the foods. It's just not a good situation for us. Heavy metals, lead, cadmium, mercury, arsenic. China dumps over 1,500 metric tons of lead on our soils every year from their coal-fired power plants, and it's more than that now. That was 3 or 4 years ago, because they're putting, almost every week there's a new coal-fired power plant going online in China. They have abundant coal, but they don't clean it, they don't scrub it, and their air pollution is terrible. So the GMO have lost our problems for us because they lack long-term safety studies, and there's a whole thing with this, and I'm not going to go into that detail, but reveals recent studies show that they disrupt our gut bacteria. There's herbicide and pesticide residue because of it. The plants are genetically modified so they can tolerate more of that, but yet the soils and everything else gets exposed to more. There's inflammation on intestinal cell walls, increased risk of tumors. We need to know what we're eating. If it's in the food, we should know and be able to make that decision. I saw a report here in the last couple of months. There's over 1,237, I think was the number, studies showing that either direct tie into GMOs and health problems or strong indications. So we have a lot of research to sort that out. Enriched foods, what are they enriched with? Well, basically you mill out 20 vitamins and minerals or more when you grind the wheat, the grains, and then you add in 3 vitamins and iron, and now you call it enriched. It's the old story, if you've been robbed of $100 and he gives you $10 back, have you been robbed or enriched? Well, that's what's happening with our cereals, and those things are enriched with synthetic vitamins, which are known to create a toxic stress on our system. There was a report back in the Korean War. The medical officer that was in the prisoner of war camp, and several of the prisoners being fed basically white rice and not much else, developed beriberi, B1 deficiency. See, when they mill the rice, all the B vitamins are pretty much taken off with the rice hulls, and it's mostly a carbohydrate left. Well, from the Red Cross, then he got thiamine hydrochloride, a synthetic B1, and gave it to the prisoners, and no change. Nothing happened. the Korean guard told him to get rice polish. That's the powdery stuff, the shell, the hulls and that are taken off the rice when they polish it. And he gave them a teaspoon of that each, and within a week all the symptoms were gone. See, a little bit of the whole thing was what it took, not a high concentration of one. So it takes that whole thing, and that's what our foods have in it. But when you process them and refine them and enrich them, you lose that. And that was a story I heard 35 years ago, and it was always been kind of a question for me. And then the organic versus commercial. A number of studies show that somewhere like 50% to 3 to 5 times as many nutrients in organic foods as commercial foods. The synthetic fertilizers, the petrochemicals, all these things are driven into the soils. They produce extra crop material without replacing all the trace minerals. The World Health Organization 20 years ago showed that North America has about 85% depletion of the trace minerals, and these are critical for providing the proper foods that we need. Organically, you go back to the sustainable agricultural practices to give us the full quality of the foods we're eating, and more people are doing that, and I'll show you a little bit about that in a bit. See, we have a thing called frankenfoods. These are foods that are combined with so many chemicals and additives and things to them that we don't know what they are anymore. They don't look like a broccoli, a carrot, a celery, all of those type things. Even the meats are so processed that it's hard to tell what it came from. But here are just some of the chemicals that have been added to our foods. This is a chart that shows where some of the vitamins come from. If you look at a label, let's just take B1. That's a real common one, easy one to find. Thiamine mononitrate, hydrochloride, or thiamine chloride. These are all coal tar derivatives and ammonia. That's the source form. The natural source is rice bran, barley grass, peas, nuts, avocados, brewer's yeast, legumes, whole foods. And then they come with the protein coat that allow us to absorb them properly and get into the cell. Without that protein coat, that complex, they cannot cross the cell membrane. So what they do is they give us a drug-like stimulation, but they do not build a healthy cell. And so that's the danger with all the synthetics. Now, understand that for 35 years, I promoted, recommended, sold, and took these vitamins, always in low dose. I never believed in high dose stuff. I just thought that was not good. But I thought because I had a whole food base and different things, that was good. Well, I ate enough good foods and I used it at small enough. I still didn't see the results that I should have seen taking the products that I was doing. And these were the highest quality professional products I could find. 2 years ago, I was exposed to Touchstone Essentials. And Touchstone made a difference for me. I have not taken a vitamin pill in over 2 years. I have not had any illness of any sort in 2 years. This has been great. And I'm avoiding all of these things. And here's some more from, and these are just a few of the list, but we can get you this chart if you'd like it, just showing that these things are coming, these vitamins are coming from our artificial sources. They're made in test tubes or they're extracted from the food. When they extract it from the food and concentrate them so they can measure them, now you have something that's no longer natural. That's what happens with so many of our plant oils. What you see in the grocery store is a purified, refined, clear oil that has lost a lot of its whole food nutrient capacity. That's what people want, that's what they get, but it's not nutritionally sound. So measuring vitamins in your blood, what does that mean? Well, what do they measure? They measure what they give you. And the molecule can be the same as the natural, but it's lacking the protein coat and you can't tell the difference. They don't take, you'd have to measure the cellular activity, and that's a very expensive process. They don't do that. So it just means that you have the synthetic vitamin or the vitamin in your blood. Now, if it's in your blood, that doesn't mean it's getting into the cells, and in the blood is just the highway. Now, the factories are in the cells. So if the vitamins are not getting into the cells, you know, what's being measured doesn't make much difference. So you have the isolated vitamin or whole complex. Well, what's happening is they're measuring the isolated vitamin because that's what they can measure easily in the blood test, but it doesn't really reflect your health. So what does it mean about your vitamin status? You know, it doesn't mean much. It means that you're getting the vitamin into your blood, but it has to get into the cell membrane, through the cell membrane, and must be in the natural form that's in your food. See, today, more people are looking at organics. 78% of U.S. families now buy organic. 4 in 10 are buying more organic than a year ago. We're part of that group. We're buying a lot more organic foods. Pesticides, herbicides, hormones, GMO. Why? It's healthier for me. It's healthier for my kids, my adult kids, and my grandchildren. We like to provide this as often as we can in whole foods. See, the whole food for the whole body, that's what's necessary. And when you're doing that, you go a long ways. Organic foods help, but we still have gaps because we can't always eat that. We don't have access to all the best foods all the time. So we still have nutritional gaps. And with the stresses we have and the toxins and pollutions, we need more than we can probably eat unless we're really active, and then you'd have to have pure foods all the time. See, we have a toxic body burden. Over the years, the toxins keep building up. Every day, we absorb and then take in more toxins than our body can naturally get rid of. And that then is a factor that we need to deal with. Oops, sorry, I lost the picture there. Here we go. And what happens then is that we have a situation because of all these chemicals that it's interfering with our body. You know, heavy metals block tumor suppressor genes. They interfere with the enzyme action to give us energy. So Pure Body Extra Strength is one of those products. And I'm just going to touch through a few products here, and then the core of what we need to do with the bone health is coming up in a bit. But this is a zeolite molecule that has a negative charge and it attracts the positive charged heavy metals. Safely and effectively, it doesn't force the dump of it. It just grabs it, traps it, and when the molecule becomes neutral in charge, the kidneys flush it. Safe and easy, lasts about 3 to 5 hours in your body, and we don't have this toxic side effects of the herbs and all these other things that force the dumping of toxins. And it's just been a great way to do this. This one is actually so small that it gets into your, it can cross the blood-brain barrier, it gets into your cells 100% absorbed. We just spray it in your mouth and it will be 100% absorbed into your body. It goes anywhere in your body where water goes. And it will attract the heavy metals and a number of chemicals that are positively charged, traps them and removes them from your body. This has been the most powerful toxin product I've ever seen. A friend of mine, a top neurologist in Minneapolis, said this is probably the greatest health discovery in the last 50 or 60 years. So this is really works, it's phenomenal. The Pure Body is this, the drops are a little larger size, they're 0.5 microns, the other ones are nanometer size. This one, then about half of it's absorbed into the blood. It takes about a 0.3 micron to do that. The rest of it stays in the intestinal tract to trap the toxins in the foods, reduce the inflammation of the intestinal wall, and it really provides a different component to that. So these are products. The particle size is third-party tested, and we verify it on the website. I'm going to take you through a little reaction here. This is the ATP molecule. This is how our body produces energy. This molecule right here, between these 3 phosphates, that's where you get the triphosphate. Between the second and third, this energy bond here is a high energy bond to hold those molecules together. Well, what happens, there's a binding site here. I guess it's not going to show up on this. Thought it would. But there's the energy reaction through here, and heavy metals block that from happening. And so what happens is that here we go. One more click. The binding site shows up here. Heavy metals will sit in that notch. It's like sticking a foreign key in the slot and breaking it off. Now nothing else can get in there, and this cannot open the lock. So what happens is zeolite, because of its specific tunnels, channels, and openings and negative charge, will come in and trap the heavy metal, remove it, and now the magnesium, which is needed for this reaction, binds with that, breaks that bond, and that is the energy that allows our cells to live. This is really the energy of life. And so that process is repeated. The more heavy metals you have blocking this, the lower your energy levels, the more fatigue. Our most common reaction to people starting the Pure Body is they have more energy. One gal called it the Pure Body euphoria because she just felt so good when she started taking it. Clearer thinking, less reactions to allergies. We've seen wide variety of conditions, ADHD, those types of things have been, autism, have had great responses over time by reducing this toxic burden. Does it work for everybody? Maybe not. But for those that are being affected by heavy metals and chemicals, this is a great addition to their program. So wouldn't it be nice if we could get rid of those 80,000 plus chemicals that have been induced into our environment over the last 50 years? Well, we can't get rid of those, but we can reduce our stress and reduce our toxic body burden with that. Now, let's get to the bone issue we wanted to start about. But those are critical factors because the toxins interfere with our body's ability to use calcium and all the other things that are necessary for healthy bones. Now, what I'm going to talk to you about here is backed up on articles. I thought it was 59 resources, and I started looking at it. Several of these resources list 3 or 4 different research articles. So there's well over 100 different published research articles that come from the National Library of Medicine. So osteoporosis, it's not about the ability to build strong bones, but about premature degeneration. Taking excess calcium is like a prevent defense in football. I've seen too often. I remember Minnesota was up by 20 points on Michigan and gave up 28 points in the 4th quarter with their prevent defense. Happens too often. You start giving them a little bit and they take a lot. And the same thing, when you take calcium, it seems logically, looks like it's logical, but when you understand it, it's not. See, all of our organs age. In all our organs, the cells constantly are reproducing themselves, and they wear out. They have each one's guaranteed or programmed for so many replication cycles, and then they're done. And so then they got to be replaced by new ones. And what happens, you don't want to burn that out too fast. And because the number of times the cells can multiply is fixed, organs will eventually age and die. Like the skin eventually becomes wrinkled because the cells are unable to replace themselves and replace the dehydrated old skin cells. They've expired their length of lifespan, and that's just part of the aging process. But we can delay that. See, estrogen is a hormone that has benefits, and I'm sure you've heard of estrogen. See, it blocks the intake of calcium into the bones and the deportation or the excretion of calcium from the bones. So it helps keep the calcium, prevents extra calcium from coming in and extra calcium from leaving. So it's a protective. Now, if females produce sufficient estrogen all the time, a healthy female in those reproductive years, the risk of osteoporosis is produced. In other words, the cell is protected from the excess calcium, and I'll explain why the excess calcium is so harmful. But yet, females have 3 to 4 times the risk of osteoporosis than men. Now, why is that if they have the estrogen? Well, men have a steady level. In women, during the reproductive cycles, every 4 weeks, the estrogen level drops, it becomes low, and then it builds up again during the menstrual cycle. So during that period of time, now the cells are not protected. And so from about 30 on, you start losing some of your bone density, your bone calcium, because of this estrogen. And then in postmenopausal women, you have lower estrogen yet, and you need to take some other actions to help sustain healthy bone. Now, the estrogen, just to review, reduces the absorption and removal of calcium, therefore is protecting the bones. And therefore, accelerated aging of the bones is obviously about increased absorption and excretion of calcium. If estrogen is protective by slowing it down, then we want to understand that accelerating the aging of bones happens when the calcium is increased in its absorption excretion. The exchange of calcium increases the aging of bones. Like with all minerals normally, the body just absorbs as much calcium or other minerals from the food as it needs. Now, whether we consume 300 or 700 milligrams in total, or sometimes even when taking 1,200 milligrams of supplemental calcium daily, the average is only about 200 milligrams is absorbed into the blood. More intake causes less absorption. But if we consume too much calcium, the absorption rate cannot be sufficiently decreased. So you can take too much and absorb too much. Now, what do you do with that? But why is this extra calcium absorbed into the bones? Well, to prevent blood calcium level from increasing too much. See, if you're absorbing more calcium than you need, it's going to be in the blood, and you got to get it out of there, because muscles can only function by firing if the calcium from inside the cells can be excreted outside the cell, and there's a process through the cell membrane, but if the concentration outside is too high, you can't push the calcium out, and this could be lethal. Your breathing muscles wouldn't fire if you didn't get that calcium level down. So taking too much calcium really creates a stress, and it really throws the hormones in balance. Now, it's not normal, and the extra is excreted eventually. And one other thing I want to point out here is that the hormones, estrogen, calcitrol, calcitonin, the parathyroid hormone, those things are necessary to balance the calcium. Now, they're hormones. There are three things that are affected by toxins: the immune system, your nervous system, and your hormone balance. So those toxins are feeding back into this and affecting your body's ability to regulate its calcium levels. And then the question, but why don't the bones hold on to the extra calcium? Well, the old doctrine, we can prevent osteoporosis by stacking more calcium in the bones. It's like creating a pantry with more stuff in it so that the calcium will last longer and it won't empty out and cause osteoporosis. Well, we got to look at one more thing. This would be a simple solution if the bones indeed hold on to the calcium, but like a house, our bones are built according to a plan, and that extra calcium is not part of it. So how exactly can processing more calcium cause osteoporosis? Well, the absorption of calcium requires the activity of specialized cells, osteoblasts. Those are the builders of the bone. They build the matrix. And these osteoblasts also make pre-calcified bone matrix, upon which the calcium can precipitate. In other words, building the bone. It's like the framework. And so the osteoblasts create the framework, and after they do that, they die and are replaced by new ones. Removal of the calcium from the bones requires the activity of osteoclasts, and they also tear down the osteoblasts. So it's just tear down the old, build up the new, tear down the old, build up the new. That's the way the body is designed to work. But the sooner the cells have to be replaced, the sooner the moment will be, the end of their fixed lifespan, when these cells cannot multiply anymore. So the more calcium you put in, the faster the turnover of the osteoblasts and the osteoclasts, and guess what? You don't have the osteoblast to put down the matrix, and this accelerates the aging of the cell with a higher turnover of cells, new cells replacing old cells faster. So if much calcium is absorbed, much calcium is excreted. But with all the new matrix that is composed, 50 to 70% of the composing osteoblasts die. And the more their activity is stimulated, the more they die. And thus, in osteoporotic bones, there is less matrix available, and yet that can be calcified in a healthy bone. So the more calcium that's exchanged, the quicker the bone cells die off. So in osteoporosis, dead cells cannot be replaced, microfractures cannot be repaired. Now drugs, they go, wow, we can do that with drugs. We got Fosamax and a bunch of other ones. Well, they reduce the osteoclast activity, so you're not breaking down, but those old cells have to be removed. And if they're not, the bones continue to thicken, but what happens is the bones become brittle. In reducing the osteoclast activity, then the old cells do not get recycled. The old bone cells and matrix become brittle. So often you've probably heard that. Well, they broke their hip and fell. The fall didn't break it. It broke beforehand. Or they may have just stumbled on a step, and when that little extra jolt, the bone snapped. It happened to some people we knew on they were on a cruise in Greece for their 50th anniversary. She broke that, and she never did fully recover. She's passed now, but she had a lot of problems after that, and they had to air flight her back and a whole bunch of things. And the doctor looked at her and said, oh, she'd been on Fosamax for 9 years, and he said, oh, you have a Fosamax fracture. The bones look more dense, but they are brittle. So living bone is flexible. I have seen a dynamic x-ray of like the jaw bones when you chew, and there's just a great flexibility. I mean, we'd shatter our jaw every time we chewed something heavy with the stress and the power that our muscles put on there, but the bone is flexible and it bends. When you fall down, little kids fall and don't break bones because they're really flexible, but as we get older, if you're brittle, you fall and smash, but it's not necessarily have to be that way. The living bone, keep them flexible, and they will take a lot of stress before they will break. Just this reminded me of an old card I had, the boneless chicken ranch. It just reminded me when we're talking about osteoporosis and lack of bone health, and the chickens don't run very fast when they don't have bones. A recent 12-year prospective study among 77,000 women revealed that consuming milk increases bone fracture risk. A couple of things with that. Let's see if I have here. Yeah. Milk provides higher calcium than is needed and a higher protein. High protein will also leach calcium from the bones, but the increased calcium in the dairy fits into this. The one saving thing with pasteurized milk is that most of the calcium gets locked up, and it's not a real good source of calcium, but still way above what we would need from our diet. And it would be worse if you were drinking raw milk, really. Accelerated aging of cells is about the higher turnover of cells. I'm just repeating that. New cells replacing old cells faster, they die off, and we're headed towards osteoporosis. Men and women. Men have a better, some protection from their androgens, their male hormones, and they're more stable, but as we get older, they drop off, and we need to do some of the same things that we'd recommend for women to avoid osteoporosis. Also, pop and soda consumption, the phosphoric acid leaches calcium from the bone, and that accelerates that, and then it creates more absorption to replace that, and again, you're going to push towards that osteoporosis much faster. Where can you find calcium? Many green vegetables. They have a calcium absorption rates of over 50%. They're lower dose, and you have about 32% from a milk calcium, but there's so much more calcium in milk. And the protein actually works against it, but still you get a lot more from milk. Additionally, since animal proteins induces calcium excretion in the urine, calcium retention from vegetables is higher. So what you absorb, smaller amounts, but you retain it. And all green vegetables are higher in calcium. There was a study, and I tried to find it, but I couldn't, but I remember this so well from 25, 30 years ago. There was a study between women of Finland and women of Brazil. They wanted somebody with two groups of women about the same physical activity, doing a lot of walking and that sort of thing, but difference in the calcium intake. Finland had the highest, a lot of dairy, had the highest, like 1,200 milligrams of calcium a day. The Brazil women, all from vegetable sources, practically no dairy at all, and they had 300 milligrams of calcium a day. Finland had the highest rates of osteoporosis, Brazil practically non-existent. So the vegetables are your best sources, and it's just important that you get those on a daily basis. So dietary calcium is adequate to maintain bone health. If you're eating whole foods, avoid the frankenfoods, the processed, the enriched, the out-of-balance foods, things where you've had spiked with vitamins and minerals and multiple vitamin mineral supplements just throw things out of balance. We don't know all the things that are there. We don't know what your cells need from a moment to moment. I can't tell what I need 10 minutes from now versus 10 days from now to 10 months from now. So what I want to do is give my body a smorgasbord of nutrients so that that physician within me, if you will, can pick and choose what it needs for each cell and give it in the form that can be absorbed into the cell. Whole foods. Problem is whole foods only 30 to 50% of the nutrients that were there 50 to 80 years ago. When I was little, the foods were much healthier, and for probably many of you, the same thing. But today we have a lack of nutrients in the foods. So even when you're eating whole foods, organic is going to be your best choice. You're going to be closer to back what it was, but still we're going to have gaps. And so we use supplements of whole foods. No vitamins and minerals spiked in, just the non-nutritive, the water, that sort of thing, taken out, processed at a low temperature so we don't denature it, and look at that. And also detoxification of the cells to restore normal potential. Heavy metals and chemicals are going to interfere with what the cells can possibly do, and it can't respond properly. It has to respond to that, and that's when disease processes can start. So your frankenfoods are put, they're taken in facilities, they're taken out of big barrel vats, and whatever company, A, B, C, D, or company, they are using the same barrels and just combining them slightly differently and calling them their unique formula. Too many of the foods, tomatoes, they were actually experimenting with genes from a cockroach to give the tomato a tougher skin. Well, that sounds nice, but boy, that would never happen naturally. So all this thing is going on. It's not a good thing with all these Franken foods. We don't know what's going to happen. Now there are some other factors. You need K2. Now where do you get K2? Well, spinach and some green vegetables. Most of that comes from the healthy bacteria in your colon. So you need to have a good probiotic balance. But K2 is critical for bone health and preventing breast cancer, pancreatic cancer, colon cancer. So K2, having a good supply of the greens. Probiotics, again, that's a major source of the K2. And the no fat, low fats, they're a disaster because they're out of balance. If they worked, we wouldn't have 70% of our people overweight, 35% obese. See, if these things are out of balance, what happens in your body is going to looking for the complete food. And so it sends you to craving, and a lot of times the fatty foods you take are processed, refined, and they're not healthy. Balance of essential oils is so important, or what do we call the PEO, the parent essential oils. There are two things that are critical here. The parent essential oils of alpha, AL and LA, ALA and LA, and from these the body can make all of the other oils that it needs. So we need to get those from coconut oil, pumpkin seed, flaxseed oil, and borage oil. Those are some of those that will give us the balance that we need so our body can control its inflammation. And then as far as bones, you also need the magnesium, potassium, sodium, vitamin D, and other trace minerals. These are critical for the balance of building healthy bones. So it's not just taking a calcium supplement with vitamin D, because it's just going to overload the system. You're getting more D absorbed than's necessary, and that just as we talked about earlier, it just throws things way out of balance. So here's some alternatives. Super Greens Plus D. This is for immunity and digestion. It provides digestive enzymes to help your digestion. It also provides the probiotics, the bacteria you need for keeping your colon healthy. It also provides the greens, the barley grass, the spinach, broccoli, and you get about 8/10 of a pound of broccoli in 3 capsules, along with all the other things. So you get the nutrient value of that. That's huge. And so this is a great thing. Plus the chlorophyll in the greens gives us a broader detox. It helps detox some of the things that the zeolite in the pure body isn't primarily meant for. So it gives us a broader detox capacity. And then it also provides vitamin D, and that's critical for our health. And it's an organic vitamin D. It comes from mushrooms that are exposed to bright sunlight for a short time prior to harvest, and so it has that organic vitamin D. Touchstone Essentials is a product that has 33 servings of 28 fruits and vegetables, organic fruits and vegetables, processed at a low temperature so you get the whole thing. Some other fruit and vegetable components, they pasteurize it before they dry it up and tablet it. In the pasteurization process, you destroy so much of the enzymes. From 106 to 185 degrees is where you have to go. 185 degrees for 15 seconds is the pasteurization point. So here we don't. Everything in this product stays at 106 degrees or less, so we do not denature any enzymes, any of the nutrient quality. So this is a powerful antioxidant, 28 fruits and vegetables. And then there's Green Energy. This helps us to, we take this between meals to help digest any protein coat that covers the red blood cells, because we eat a lot of under stress, poor food digestion, poor foods, so on. This coat, absorbing this type of protein and this incomplete digestion creates a coat on the red blood cells, which reduces the absorption of oxygen. So it doesn't get as much oxygen to the cells, and that's critical because the reduction of oxygen can lead to a lot of disease. This increased flow will just mean more energy, and there's also in the Green Energy not only the enzymes for that's why we take it between meals so it gets absorbed into the system, but there's also green tea, and the green tea helps, no caffeine, no stimulants, but the green tea helps burn fat better, more efficiently, so you help to energize the fat burning. And the combination of these two, I take a couple in the morning, a couple in the afternoon most days, and it just keeps my energy going, and we really appreciate that. This is the thing. I used to do some dark field microscopy in my office, and the cells on the left, the unhealthy blood cells, we used to see they're stacked up like a bunch of coins, and that's when they have the sticky substance to them. Healthy cells should be not sticking together. They have enough a negative charge on their outside to repel each other so they don't stick. But when they get sticky, they cannot carry oxygen properly, and that's a sign of a non-healthy person on the left. On the right, much better health. So oxygen is required for a number of things in our body, from retards the aging process, helps relieve headaches, alleviates tiredness, boosts the immune system, supports breathing in the air cases of asthma and allergies, helps in the case of depression, and improves physical performance by up to 25%. So if we can increase your oxygen carrying capacity and get more oxygen to the cells, you have a lot of health issues that will get better. This is about the oxygen in our cells. He was a microbiologist, MD, PhD from the 1930s, and he found that 35% reduction in cellular oxygen respiration is the primary cause of cancer. If this happens for any length of time, the cell becomes a permanent cancer cell. And this study has been reproduced in the 50s and again in early 2000s, and has never been challenged as being faulty. But there's no drug to deal with this, so they just don't deal with it. And it's just a matter if you can keep your oxygen levels at your cell better, your chance of cancers are reduced. So what should you do? Well, for oxygen, you need exercise, and for your bones, you need resistance exercise, light weights, that sort of thing. Walking can help the legs, but it doesn't do anything for your spine and your arms and your neck. So you need to do some resistance exercises to challenge those bones, the muscles attached to those bones. Cellular detox is critical. Avoiding inflammation triggers, those things, the chemicals, the bad oils, those types of things that can trigger your immune system. Whole foods and whole food supplements for nutrition that your cells can use. And we found this to be significantly, my health has always been good, but it's better now in the last 2 years than it's ever been, significantly or measurably better. Green energy for more natural energy. Those are the things that we do. Okay. Just bear with me. My program is locked up for some reason. Should come out of this shortly. If you have any questions too, feel free to type in the side in the chat box there if you have something. Here we go. And the last product here is the Wellspring. This is the plant-based essential fatty acids. It has the parent essential oils to help for your skin, your brain, your joints, your heart. But it's a combination of the omega-3, 6, and 9. And helps keep the balance. Inflammation and anti-inflammatory are neither good nor bad until they're out of balance. You know, if you didn't have inflammation, you'd get sick and die. So you need the inflammation to start the immune system going, but you can't have too much of it or you're constantly battling things and you run down and cause all kinds of problems. So it also has, besides the borage, flax, and pumpkin seed and coconut oil, it has the joint-soothing curcumin. There's just a ton of studies. This is from the turmeric plant. And there's just so much in arthritis and other factors that this is just a huge, it's surpassing certain drugs on the market now for its effectiveness. And then astaxanthin is it's about 1,000 times more effective than vitamin C, and it's a powerful antioxidant that's in this product as well. So these are the products. I take 3 tablets. I take a Wellspring, an Essentials, and a Green Energy every meal, and a couple of Green Energy each day, and then I take the drops as needed. That's my supplement basis right now, and we're doing extremely well with that. So in summary now, look at this. 3 key factors that influence your genetic expression was your bone health, your memory, your blood sugar, all of your energy factors. It's the cellular toxicity, cellular nutrition, and of course when they're working, it's easier to have a good attitude. So I trust you see that these are unique nutritional powers of the Touchstone products, and we need these to help most of the people. So there are 2 questions. What do you want more of in your life? What do you want less of in your life? Have you seen some things here that can impact your health, your greatest asset that would make a difference for you? I trust that you do. And can you get everything out of life doing what you're currently doing? do you see things that will be limiting for you? That's the key. If you can identify something that would be limiting, you know, when we talked about osteoporosis, diabetes, and Alzheimer's, and they were greatly limiting, you know, we should be able to go for 90 and 100 years and in good shape if we take care of ourselves. Most of the conditions that are causing healthcare costs to rise are things that we can control because we can stay out of that. We can prevent those by our own activities. And then we need people to help share the story. And it's just a matter of invite people to review the information, share it with them, and then follow up and see what their interest level is. If it's nothing, so you've offered it to them. You've offered them something that can make a big difference. You may trigger something that, you know, I have a family history of this. I know something is not right now with my joints or my skin or my heart or whatever. We have some things that we can really make a difference. And so share them with us. Plug them back into me. Glad to answer their questions and help you build a business if that's what you want to do. But I trust that you understand the core of any successful business is to help other people. It has to be something bigger than ourselves. If we can reach out and make impact, what if each of us would impact 10 people and they would do 10 people? Can you imagine as that multiplies out the impact we would have on our healthcare system and the costs of healthcare? See, there is a unique selling position here because we're dealing with foods, supplements that make a difference, that can be used and make a huge difference in the body. So if you'd like to join our team, get back in touch with me or the person that invited you on this call, and let's get together. You know, whether you take the products and have a great response, whether you take the products and share with a few people and impact their lives, or if you take the products, enjoy the health benefits, share and impact the lives of others, and start repeating that process and build a business, any of those three, you are a champion if you keep doing the work, taking the supplements, sharing, and working with that and teaching others to do that. So if you'd like to join our team for your health, or to help share the critical information with others, to build a business, you know, you may get your products free or at greatly reduced cost, or you can build a business and have a retirement income. Get back to me or the team member that invited you. I'd be glad to do that. Oops, I got a duplicate slide there. Contact me at this Daryl at drhesselin.com, or again, the person that invited you to this call. Or you can go to darylhesselin.com and check out the schedule, or if you just put a /schedule after .com, you'll go right to the future webinars. I'll be holding this webinar again and several times, and several others with key topics. And if you have a topic you'd like me to talk about, let me know and I'll put something together. For your total health, this is Dr. Daryl Hesselin. Thanks for your time. Now, if you have questions, I'll hang on for a few minutes here, and if you have any questions on the, just type them in the box on the side.